Welcome to Invest, the Altaworx podcast where we talk about all things telecom, leadership, changing industries, and trends. My name is Keith. My special guest today is Jaime Rawden. So, Jaime, in combination with our core values as a business, one of the things that we really like to do is spend time with the people that work for us and around us and mentor them to take over for us. Ricky says this, I say this, there's other leaders in business that say it all the time. You should always be training your replacement. So tell me about the mentoring program that you've dove into. What are some of the challenges, successes? What do you like about it, dislike? Let's talk a little bit about your mentoring here at Altaworx.
Honestly, my mentoring has been a lot of fun. It's really great to be able to talk to somebody about something and tell them how you screwed it up, honestly. Like, if you can talk to somebody about how you have screwed something up and then turn that into a positive so that they don't have that same um, pitfall later, it's a lot of fun. And people's perspective changes because they think, okay, well, Jamie's done everything right. She knows where everything is. And I still mess up. And I still want to talk through those things with my team because I don't want us to do that again. Uh, We have little cohorts all the time in my office with my team, and just seeing everyone's perspective from a support, billing, and connectivity perspective, it changes if we can all sit together and really dig in to what those issues are and where we made a mistake, even if it's just a ticket that we just didn't handle correctly. We want to be able to talk through that, get it right next time.
One of my favorite things to do, and I had one of these conversations this morning, was try to put people that work for me in my shoes and say things like, when you're in my seat, this is what you need to watch out
Mm-hmm.
for. Hey, I want to show you something that I did, an email that I sent, or here's a voicemail that I left, or a direct message that I sent, and here's the reasons why. And I like to break that down and show them the why, but the how, and say, okay, when you're in my seat, these are the things you need to think about. You right now you're thinking about XYZ, but when you're in this seat, you're going to need to think about ABC. So before you get to that seat, here's some training. And I love those conversations. I've seen people that work for me here at Altaworx, but also at other stops previously. They take those little snippets of, okay, if I'm in that situation, maybe I'll think back and do opposite of what Keith did because he wasn't successful in that effort. Or, oh, I was shown this
Yeah.
situation before, and this is what we did. There was there was a member a management team meeting that we had just last couple of weeks. I made the decision to take a hard line with one of my partners, and I shared that lesson with the team without knowing the outcome yet. And then after, there were some people that had, man, I said, hey, basically, how'd you
I know
react
what
to
you're
this? Do you
talking
know what I'm
about.
talking about? Without naming names, I said, hey, what was your reaction to that? Because some people on the management team were copied on that communication. And one of the answers was, my stomach hurt reading the whole thing, right? Because there's some risk there to taking a harder line with certain situations without knowing the outcome. We
Mhm.
walked through that. I walked through my logic with the team so they understood where my head was at. Um, and what happened? Was it a positive outcome?
It was.
Right. So I took a risk, but I also like to teach my team in these situations, risk is okay. And I think that's really important. That was a lesson that we all learned together, the executive team. And then once we understood the outcome, we brought that back to the team and basically dissected it and said, this is the reason why. So think about things in a little different way sometimes. And that's mentoring.
Definitely.
Show them the challenge, show them what your mindset is, show them how you're going to walk through that response, that solution, that piece of communication and why, and then see what happens and you can learn from it.
To me, you drawing that line was really interesting. Like, I had to think through that. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and read that exchange because it's so important for me to understand, hey, in this situation, I can draw a line. And based on our core values and who we want our end clients to be, we have to set those boundaries.
Sure.
And you did that, and it worked. And I was very impressed.
Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah,
right?
well, I don't think it was luck. You were being real and setting expectations that, hey, we're the partner. And if you think you can find it somewhere else, go ahead. And that was very impactful for me as a leader. And I've shared that with my team too.
I'm glad to hear that got pushed down because
Mm,
oftentimes we learn these lessons and we don't necessarily bring them back to our team. Those little pieces of experience, seasoning, if you will,
right.
it makes everything better. Everybody in your team can learn from some aspect of that situation, and I'm happy that you took that down to your team. That's a form of mentoring.
Mm,
Hey, look at this. There's a lesson to be learned from it. What do we glean from it? And then how do we incorporate that into our mindset, but also our actions moving forward? And that's how you drive change. As a mentor, what are you trying to do? You're trying to build somebody up. You're trying to not necessarily change them, but help them develop. You're trying to develop them. And if you're always looking to make sure that you've got somebody on your team that can take your job, and as you do your job, you're teaching them how to do that job, organizations get a lot deeper and wider, or a lot deeper from an experience standpoint, and then all of a sudden the bench is just strengthened. And the bench strength these days in business is so important to every single company. During COVID, companies just went roughshod and started gobbling up all this talent. Well, they gobbled all this talent, and what we're seeing now is 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, hey, they're chopping everybody's heads and they're getting rid of all this talent that they didn't necessarily need. But if they would have had a smaller group, maybe they'd develop them, mentor them, they would have taken a different approach and probably saved a bunch of money.
I, my team specifically, I listen to them a lot and try to understand why they handle things the way they do. Um, I was outside the operations group for a while. So going back in, seeing how those things have changed and how things are handled is really important to me, um, because they've seen a lot of success in the way that they're doing things today. So I still feel like I'm learning from them every time we have a meeting.
Right,
Uh, and I think it's good to keep an open mind because I don't know everything
right.
and they don't either. So we learn from each other and really build on the knowledge that each other has gained over time.
There's a great leader that I follow on social media, and he was interviewed one time, and the person asking him the question said simply, "Tell me how your leadership style has changed as you've climbed the ladder." And he said something that was really important. He said, "Every time I climbed the ladder, I talked less and I listened more." Um, and the whole premise of the conversation was having very capable people in the room, let them do their job, very
Mm.
capable, ask some really simple, direct questions to help drive the direction, but you don't need to speak as much, just listen. And oftentimes that's better leadership than sometimes people like to push their thoughts and opinions and directions on others when they should just direct. And that's something that I see you do a lot. You're a good listener.
I think it's I think it's one of the best things that you can do as a leader to listen and then give that direction or even just prompt them to think about it differently. So a lot of times people get stuck in what they're supposed to do. Maybe it's, hey, the process says do it this way, so I'm going to follow those steps exactly. Not always going to be for every opportunity that you run into. You need to be able to pivot when something's out of line and look at something from a different perspective.
It's always neat for people that work for you to be able to do the cooking and see how the meal comes out. And if you're constantly in there cooking with them and you're looking over their shoulder and you're telling them they're not doing it right, or you're over directing, you're over managing it, the meal just doesn't come out
You do
as good.
this. You are great at giving me just enough where I'll dig in and want to know more. You ask me the right questions, and I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. It's definitely been something that I've tried to incorporate into my leadership style, which is nothing gets on my nerves more than when somebody just wants to tell me everything. Just give me enough. Let me go work on it. And I feel like I want to manage my team the same way. Come up with your own ideas on how to do it, but we need to go there. So tell me how, what's the best way you think to get us there?
I think I've learned more from my failures throughout my career than anything else because I never want to do that again. It's important to me to get it right and to do right for the company and for whoever our end customer is, whether it's an agent, um, a multi location customer, or just a small mom and pop. You want to have a good outcome and be able to positively impact those clients, no matter who they are and where they are.
You bet. You bet. So, Jamie, just want to thank you for being here with us and being our special guest on Invest. Hope you join us again.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
me.
everybody.